In this video you're gonna be learning about objects and their settings. This is gonna be everything that's on the right side here. Everything that's on the top and left side we've already covered in the last video. Starting off, I want to show you some hotkeys. For example, with pressing C you can generate a cube. With Shift R you can duplicate it. With delete button you can delete it. With Shift C you can make it non-collidable. With Shift V you can make it invisible. You see that on top here. If you press 1 you can move things around, press 2 you can rotate them, and press 3 you can resize them. By pressing X you can search for all the objects, for example here a ladder. You can also just add a cube like this, or you could go to Object Basic and then all those here. First thing is done. Second, here you can change if something is visible. You can change if you can go through it. Complex collisions will make it a little bit buggy, but let's say we have a cube like this. The red thing is, by the way, it's real hitbox. Turn it on. If we turn on complex collisions, we can real quick try that. Okay, here we are. I have activated complex collisions on those two. As you can see, I slip off here kind of, and it's a little bit buggy, like I phase through the thing at some points. You can use complex collisions for some things, but it's still, I guess, work in progress and it's not completely developed yet. For a situation like this, where you would have to rotate this object here, like this, I would recommend going to use a ramp and rescaling it in the way you need it to be. Let's say, okay, first off making this non-collidable, and then just kind of replicating how steep it is and those things. Like for example here you could now go onto that ramp, and the ramp has kind of the same steepness as this object, so you could just go on top of it. This is the major way to deal with rotating objects and their hitboxes. I want to continue with bullet collisions. This is if you can shoot through. AI collisions. AI is, I think, like the Ghosts and Soul Sanctum or things like that. Penetrable. This is if you can wallbang. Wall jumpable, expands itself. Grapple, same. Impulse, yep. A border. A border makes an object red, and this means you cannot go above it. This is a lot in like public maps where you can't go on top of the houses usually because they're bordered, and you can't, hop over that. Shown minimap is just for a new feature that's upcoming. Coming over to transform. This here is the exact same thing like on top. Like you can here rotate, you can change its position, you can rescale it. I usually use the top three things here, but if you want something precise like size, you want to resize it to 10 and then 20 and stuff like that, then I would recommend this. With rotating it's a little bit weird. If you want to rotate a object by, let's say, 45 degrees, you need to go to Edit, Settings, Object, Rotation, 45 degrees, and then you can rotate something by, like, let's say 45 degrees, or if you're working with triangles, you can do that with 30. I usually set mine to 1 by default. Okay, next thing, style. Here we have the texture. Here you can either select like this, or which is a new feature, you can see what texture, whatever texture your thing could have. Let's say we want gray here. Okay, we've got a gray variant modern block here. If you want to have an asset pasted in here, like a custom asset that it has a custom texture, for like a PNG. If you use stretch, then it sometimes makes the texture a little bit cleaner. If you scale it, then if it's above 1, it goes smaller. If it's between 1 and 0, it gets bigger. Force transparency is just, don't worry. Rotation is of, as you can see, the rotation of the thing. The only things I use is like 90-degree rotation for something. Offset is also like similar to rotation. If you want to, like, let's say you want to have this top line here exactly lined up with the ceiling, you can do that. Same with the other axis. For movement, yeah, I just usually, you don't need that often. and just, yeah. Okay, here, coming to color. Here you can obviously change the color. I'll change it to green because I like green. Here you can change the emissive. This is how bright it should be. This is most useful for things like this. Have a look here. We have this object here. By the way, double click to focus. You can, for example, have brick dark, and you can't make it lighter, but if you turn the emissive up, you can make it have a little bit of a lighter color, which is really useful sometimes. Okay, continuing onwards, you can also change obviously the opacity. If you can kind of see through it, you can select if it should be affected by shading or fog. This is useful if you happen to have let's say many small things on top of each other, and then in game they look kind of weird, so you turn off shading. Okay, then technical and logic. This is usually with triggers, like you make it destructible or have it have a certain time of health and be able to respawn. The ID is also for triggers. And then render faces, you can also select here face selection, like if you can or cannot see something from one side or another. This is useful to reduce lags and things like that. Okay, next thing I wanted to mention are cylinders, because they are quite cool. I'm gonna show you some tricks with them. First off, we've got the same things up here, but we have, first off, spin. You can make it spin. You can make it open-ended, which means that it has no, it's just a hole and has just the sides, not the top or bottom. You can change the radius on the top and the bottom. For example, you could just make a cone like that or like this. If you combine that with open-ended, you can make some funny things like this. I want to show you something real quick here. For example, if we give this to where is roof here. This is I used this trick in a map of mine, so I wanted to make like a brownish dark thing. So you basically, as you can see, if you have here the top or the bottom like smaller than the other one, then you can make it to just 0.1 units thick. You can make it just, you know, be a hole, kind of. Obviously the hitbox is still the green outline, but if you rotate this correctly and stuff, it can look really cool. You can also change if you want to have a whole cube or if you just want a part of it. So for example here 270, we've got 3/4 of a cube. You can also combine this with radius top and like this and like open-ended, where was it? Here you can make like things like that. So yeah, so with cylinders you can do a lot. One thing which is very important is sides. You can either make a completely clean circle or you could make a triangle. And yes, if you have a triangle with the yeah, as you can see, you can make some really funky objects just with those cylinders. For example, yeah, you can make a triangle. As you can see, you can also rotate it like this and it will still remain the things, and it's really cool what you can make with cylinders. If it has 4 sides, by the way, it's not a regular cube, it's like yeah, what do you call it, a square, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. In comparison, spheres are not that useful. You can stretch them to be like, you know, something like this. I don't know. Something I really like is liquid. Yeah, no, the other liquid. I mean, you can make an ocean with it, for example. So I think I've showed this already in a different video, but let's say if you turn this to liquid, then you can change the height of the waves. Like you can make the waves go bonkers or just really slow, and the speed like, or you know, it's really cool. Also the depth you can change those things. So you can use that if you want to generate an ocean. The other way to make an ocean would be here to go to ocean enabled, and then whatever do those things. Yeah, I think by now I should have covered most of the things. Write something in the comments if you miss something, or if you want me to add it to the next video. Next video is gonna be about zones and triggers, just basic things about triggers. And yeah, have a good day and goodbye. I hope this helped.